Coaster Kings Radio.
All right, welcome everyone to our first episode of the Coaster Kings Radio. My name is Sean. I'm here with Alex, Nick, and Sven. We're going to be talking about ourselves for a little bit, and then hopefully you guys enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from Santa Cruz, California.
I'm Nick. I'm from Orlando, Florida.
And I'm Sven, and I'm from Europe, from Belgium.
And of course, I'm Sean. We recently moved to Orlando. You probably know me from California Coaster Kings, where we started. And now we are Orlando-based, so the overall brand, thecoasterkings.com, which we launched a couple weeks ago, is now Orlando-based with correspondents in California, Florida, and Europe. So we're going to kind of go through some questions to kind of get to know everyone better. The first question that we have is, what is your top 5 coasters? Nice little introduction.
Oh, I get to go first? Okay.
You get to go first.
Great. Okay, number 1 coaster is Lightning Rod, obviously, because I'm basic. Number 2, Wood Coaster at Night Valley in Shenzhen, China, because that's me trying to counterbalance my basicness of my first answer. Number 3, Bullet Coaster, which is also in China. It's one of those SNS compressed air launch coasters. The number 4 is Trod, which is also in China. Are you noticing a theme here? And then number 5 is the Giant Dipper in Santa Cruz, because that's my baby. That's where I'm from. That's my everything. So.
My top 5. So my number 1 coaster is Steel Vengeance. That's probably even more basic answer than yours.
I've been upstaged.
But I know. Sorry. It's a good point, but
Our RMCs are winning here.
RMC basicness.
love that ride. That ride blew me away. Got it out on my list. Number 2, and these are in no particular order from now on. So number 2, one of my favorite rides is Magnum XL 200. I absolutely love that classic aero ride. It's so much fun. It's classic. Fury 325, also up there in my top 5. And then bringing it back down to Florida, Mako and Kumba round out my list. I love Mako. It was my first B&M Hyper. It's a smooth, great ride. And then Kumba's just, it's what B&M used to do. It's just them in their fullest form. It's a great ride.
It's textbook.
So first notice is that I haven't ridden any of those coasters yet, so
We love you,
there's still a lot for me to do. And let me do it the other way around to build up the suspense, I'm going to start with my number 5, which is Lek Coaster at Legendia in Poland. Vekoma is back, baby. I was so surprised by it. It's like small, and yet it's because of that the elements are so much fun.
It must be like my most watched POV currently, because I'm just
Yeah.
obsessed with that ride.
I think that's our number 1 most sought after credit that we don't have.
Yeah, that's my bucket list number
That's
1.
our number 1 bucket list.
And then Gravity Max
Yeah.
at the number 2.
I've already read
Well,
it. so-
Poland is definitely a destination that you have to do now for coasters, because Energylandia is also becoming the new Cedar Point in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Cedar Point in Europe, or Six Flags Magic Mountain, whatever. I'm always like, don't get your hopes up too high, because then you might be disappointed. But nevertheless, Lek Coaster is very good. My number 4 is Nemesis at Alton Towers. It was one of my first inverted coasters from B&M, and so far it's still my favorite. I rewrote it just last year, and I love the new paint job, and it's still running smooth after all these years. So yeah, Nemesis is really, it needs to be in my top 5.
I feel like that's a bucket list for Nick.
Sure is.
Nick mentioned that to me, that Alton Towers is his go-to European park when he goes.
Yeah,
It's pretty stunning, just the atmosphere there. You really feel like you're in the presence of something really special that also happens to have coasters, but you're like, that's like 400 years old. That's
wild.
The castle and stuff. And you can walk through it. It's
Yeah, I remember
It's
watching
really special.
Nemesis on a couple coaster specials when I was a kid.
the world's greatest roller coaster thrills in 3D.
That's probably what it was. Yeah, I have that.
the VHS with the green
VHS with the
sleeve.
glasses.
Yeah, I have that too.
Still have that. So
Yeah.
that's what really sold me on Nemesis. It just made it look so intense and the blood red river. And
Yeah.
I just remember the special where the world record of the most naked people on Nemesis happened, and I was like, oh, this goes there.
Oh, those bits.
What? I did didn't
You
even
never
know
heard
that.
that? They do that
But-
like every year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, they're like,
Oh.
they have to like, or whenever they have a new coaster, they're like,
Oh.
let's get a bunch of people to ride it.
So it's my kind of party, but
No.
Yeah, well, don't go at Halloween though, because I did it last year at Halloween and it was a bit too busy for my taste. A bit too rainy as well. But yeah, that's Europe indeed. Then my number 3 is Schwur des Kernen at Hansa Park.
It's Gerschlauer's Bay.
Yeah, that Gerslauer blew me away. Like, okay, how did they make this? When you step into the park and you come up close to the tower, you're like watching the steel structure and you're like, whoa, what is happening here? And then, yeah, the speed that it has, it's incredibly fast, especially in the low points. And the tower itself is stunning. It's like higher than the original tower, so it's really something.
now on that ride kind of like confused me a little bit because the very first element after the drop looks like it was definitely supposed to be a rollover, but then it needed some more airtime, and so kind of get rollover vibes from that first element.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Was it meant to be one, or is it always kind of just planned to be an airtime element?
I'm not sure either. It just looks like one big spaghetti work, and my mind really couldn't get it. It
Uh-huh.
was.
I can't believe the
And then-
superstructure for that thing.
I
Just
know.
a mess. Like, I mean, it's great to look at. It's a nice
Mm-hmm.
mess, but it's like
I find it kind of hard to believe the Gerslauers were in charge of that. I mean, yeah, they make
Yeah.
very they're known for smaller projects for sure, not like one of the biggest
Yeah.
biggest
they don't normally
hypercoasters.
build hyper coasters, but
Especially
that's what
not
the Infinity
one-
brand is all about. The Infinity coasters do it
Yeah.
all whatever you want it to be.
And then I rode like Gold Rush at Slagharen.
Oh, we love the
Yeah.
ride.
And then I was like, then once again I was like, whoa, Infinity is fun. So
Yeah.
with 2 new ones coming this year, I'm
Yeah.
very excited.
I love how
But
it's picking up
that's for
steam,
later.
that product line. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because Hang Time, honestly, hate to offend anyone in California right now, but Hang Time isn't that good.
Hang time is fine.
But Gerslauer's Gold Rush is much better in my opinion.
Well, yeah, like Monster and Adventureland is a knockout. Like that ride is so spectacular. It was so much better than it needed to be because no offense to anyone from Iowa, but like Adventureland could have gotten away with like a production model basic coaster, but they just like went all the way with that ride and like every potential thing that you could do with an Infinity coaster of that, of like the looping variety, they just did it. So kudos to Gerschlauer.
Next up,
And then my number 2, oh, sorry.
no. I'm wondering what your number 2 is.
Okay. It's Twisted Colossus at Six Flags Magic
Is
Mountain.
this your basic answer?
My basic answer?
Yeah. It's our basic number ones
Well-
of Lightning Rod and Steel Vengeance they've now met.
Well, it was my first RMC, and that's going to change this year. But for now, I put it on number 2. And then finally, maybe another basic answer, but number 1 is Taron, of course.
Okay.
Phantasialand.
That's not basic. That's good.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
I
the
mean, I
best.
like it after 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to warm up. But
Yeah, I remember the first time you guys rode it with me, you were like,
Is that it? Is that all it does?
and then after 5, it was much
And then we
better.
marathoned
But
it.
this
Then we
time,
rode it 12
Like-
times in a row, and we're like, actually, this is great.
but I was there last week, and then we rode it about, I think, 3 o'clock or something, and already then it was, wow. Even with the cold and everything, my mom got on it as well, and she was in shock after the end.
that's cute.
Because she's like, it's not going upside down. No, it's fine. You'll be fine. And well, she didn't expect it.
It's so cute.
I feel like the inversion is like the underdog because everyone like judges a roller coaster by their inversion, but like some intense airtime could definitely make a much more
I think
thrilling experience
that's
than
like the
inversion.
unwritten rule of like the difference between a family coaster and a non-family coaster is whether or not it has a loop. Like once it has a loop, then like younger children are like, that's unacceptable. Like I can't do this.
Yeah, I remember as a kid,
But it
I
could, be
was
like
like,
it
wow.
could be like a giga coaster, and little kids are like, "Oh, that looks fun." But like,
Yeah.
a 70-foot coaster with a loop in it, they're like, that's not
I
okay."
ain't going on that. So we're gonna get to my top 5 now, which is very unconventional, I guess. I got some basic wide goal answers in there, but my first one is a show off moment: Tron Light Cycle Power Run in Shanghai Disney, of course.
That's on both of our lists.
It's on both of our lists.
Because
It's on our homepage of the
Freaking
website.
amazing.
It is just next level.
Tron Light Cycle Power Run is like our mascot.
As of right now, the fastest roller coaster Disney's ever built, 65 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And once you get inside, the coaster kind
I
of
think so.
isn't as intense. So you really can't go in there expecting like, you know, an intense launch coaster towards the second half. But it's just so visually stunning.
You weren't overly the expectations were high, and then we rode it, and you were like, okay, that was really good.
But it
It was
wasn't
just
great.
like Taron. It was like, okay, you don't ride launch coasters in the morning.
Yeah,
Like that's
they have to
really-
warm up,
You gotta get the credit, but you really enjoy it more in the evening.
especially when it's dark out and the canopy lights up. It's just it's an experience off ride, on ride. It's my number one. Also, I love Vekoma because I'm from Holland. So
That's
there you
basically
go.
why we moved to Orlando. It's like, oh, you're building one at Walt Disney World? Okay, we're moving.
And so we got our apartment here. The next on my list would be Aftershock at Silverwood Amusement Park in Idaho, of all places.
We're not judging you.
It's another Vekoma coaster, if you can figure. The giant inverted boomerang, intense, slightly rough, but yeah, just one of my favorites. It really, really was enamored with Deja Vu of Magic Mountain, and I saw that thing being taken apart in front of my eyes. But now I got to experience
So
the other
dramatic.
one. Of course I am. That's what I'm here for. Then my basic wide goal answer comes in. Fury 325, because, you know, I mean, there's no
I think
extension
it's
needed.
pronounced Fury 325.
Oh, really?
sir.
325, everyone.
325. I didn't realize that till Media Day. And they're like, welcome to the Media Day for Fury 325. And I was like,
It sounds like an
what-
area
what
code.
is this?
It's
Yeah,
like area code
the
325.
area code for airtime.
Do you know you have me to thank for that ride?
You
Because
do.
I went to Canada's Wonderland, and the year after they built Leviathan. I went to Carowinds, and the year after they built Fury.
Oh.
So I was like, thank you.
Well, you went to Knott's Berry Farm, and look what happened. Nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's a
Knott's
little.
Berry Farm did not get the Giga.
It's a little backstory there.
So-
Like Sven comes over from Belgium, and we're like super excited to take him to Knott's Berry Farm. But in true Knott's Berry Farm fashion, everything is closed. There's like only Pony Express
Yeah.
open, and we're like, this
Yeah,
is
it's
perfect.
like the log flume is down because it's February. Montezuma's Revenge is being difficult. Accelerator.
It's Accelerator.
Was Accelerator, you know.
Yep.
Hang Time hadn't opened yet.
So the main attraction was Boysenberger ice cream, and that was that.
The fries
Oh,
from
yeah.
Papa Loco.
For the record, I preferred that over the Dole Whip. So
Wow,
Yes.
okay.
A little shout out to Knott's here.
Wow, that sounds like an Instagram
Backhanded compliment
poll.
first.
Yeah.
An Instagram poll waiting to happen. Are you Team Dole Whip? or
There you
Team
have it.
Boysenberry soft serve? I love
I
it.
feel like too many people haven't tried Boysenberger soft serve on
Yeah.
that Disney train, so
Yeah.
that wouldn't even
Yeah,
give,
that's a very
give it a chance.
California question.
But all the
Yeah.
Cedar Point fanboys would just put the Cedar Fair answer by
That is
default.
true.
I think it would answer. I think it would balance out.
My number 4 on the list is Dragon at Ocean Park in Hong Kong, because it's an arrow looper.
Because
which-
Ron Toomer was crazy.
I love
like a
arrow
fox.
loopers. Also, this thing is suspended several hundred feet over the ocean.
It's just draped over a
And
cliff facing
The
the,
color
South China
scheme,
Sea.
the color scheme is completely unnecessary. It's the strangest thing. And then like you go through the loop.
what's
like,
the
okay,
color
It's,
scheme?
It's a rainbow. It's every color.
it's every color. Yeah.
They
so
couldn't decide what
the track
color.
is purple, yellow, and green, and then the supports are orange flames on yellow on purple supports with like green
love it.
hints. It's like
It's like Lisa Frank just threw up all over it. I mean, nobody knows who Lisa Frank
No,
is. I
no.
just aged myself.
No.
I'm sorry. I think Nick is the only one who knows it. Lisa Frank did a bunch of like it's very 90s like stationery and pencils and stuff, and it was all like bright colors and rainbows and unicorns and stuff, and that was the aesthetic. And now it's making a comeback
Yeah, I was
because the
gonna
90s are huge.
Pretty sure it's making a comeback. these
Yeah,
days.
everyone
yeah.
loves Lisa
Gotta get
Frank
Lisa
now.
Frank pencil
yeah.
pouch.
I just went to Magic Kingdom yesterday, and like the ticketing and transport system, whatever center, is literally the 90s with all
Yeah.
the colors. Terrible. Next ride on my list is a Lightning Rod, and I've now got to have an RMC on there as well. I think it's the best RMCs
Because
I've
we are
ridden.
what? Basic.
But I've yet to ride Steve or Steel
Don't
Don't
Vengeance.
call it Steve.
Steve.
Steven!
I want to take a ride on my disco, Steven.
You're the worst person.
But yeah, Lightning Rod's on there for obvious reasons, and perhaps Steve will be on there one day as well.
We got that excellent ride on Lightning Rod March of last year, and like I think it was the only day in history that the ride ran for the whole day without breaking down, like ever. So it was warmed up really well and had been running consistently 2 trains, and we rode it. It was like dusk or something, and we'd already ridden it twice that day. I'd ridden it on a couple of occasions, and we rode it, and it was so aggressive. I almost lost my shirt.
It really hurt.
it was.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was great.
It's like your kind of pain, you know?
But it was
Like a pleasurable pain.
they've run into more problems with that ride now that it's running consistently. Because before it was like, oh, it's breaking down every day. Like, we don't have to worry about this thing actually getting warmed up.
But now, like, when it actually reaches its full potential, like, it just starts hammering the track as
Yeah.
it goes so fast. Like, it gets a little painful.
They get it
but
to run pretty
it's a very, very good
for
ride.
a couple of days, and they're like, oh, we have potholes under the ride. Oh, we're sending people to the emergency room. Like, oh, these are problems. Okay. Still a great ride, though.
So we got some more questions here, because what is a better way to know someone?
Did you finish your top 5?
Yeah, my top 5 is lightning rod.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you went backwards. That's right. That's right. Okay.
So the next question is, do you collect theme park merchandise? The answer is you better collect theme
Yes.
park merchandise. But what do you collect? Sven, what do you collect? Funko Pops.
I think the better question is, what do I not collect? No, I'm a pretty big Disney fan, so I have a lot of Disney pins.
Pins are
Besides that, I have magnets. I also have some Funko Pops,
Just some.
as you cannot see behind me.
Yeah, for those of you who want like a mental idea of how many Funko Pops this dude has, like we're Skyping with him right now, and that's all you can see is his face and a background of Funko Pops.
All of it.
Floor to
Yeah, I
ceiling.
can start a shop if I want.
Everywhere. Yep.
If you're ever broke, you can make some good money off of that. I'm just saying.
That's what people say
Yeah,
about
some of them
Beanie
are
Babies in the 90s.
pretty valuable.
It's not
like-
true.
And it's hard when you're in Europe because all the exclusive ones usually are for sale in the States. So
Well, that's why you got friends in Orlando.
Yeah.
Thank
Did you see
you.
the new one, the Alice teacup one?
I want that one.
That's super cute. Now that they're doing
If-
ones that are like rides, I'm like, okay, I'm interested.
Yeah,
Like you have my
that's
attention.
really cool.
We better have a Tron one when
Like,
it
what if
comes
we did a
here.
Millennium Force Funko Pop? of,
I have a
like,
Tron one.
People would buy that.
Send me pictures,
Not-
Sven. The hell?
It's not a motorcycle one, or it's just the figure Tron.
That's
I
cool.
was like, I need to
sounds
have
cool.
one. And then, of course, the park maps. I have a whole cupboard full. And all kinds of leaflets and everything. I like to collect those. And as you saw, I recently bought a huge Disneyland Paris poster to decorate.
You mean Euro Disneyland poster?
Yes, sorry, Euro Disneyland.
Like first
And like
edition?
I have a lot of stairs, and then on the side of the stairs, I bought the attraction posters from Disneyland Paris, and those are pretty cool as well.
Are those the ones you see when you enter like Main Street, like when you go through the tunnels?
Yeah, yes. So they made
Those are
like
pretty.
That's a sick.
Yeah.
they have 2 sets, but I only bought the first set, and they're not very big, but that way it's convenient to have not your whole house covered, you know.
Yeah, no, I got
But who
you.
wouldn't want that?
Well, we gotta keep at least a little bit of wall space left.
No.
How about you, Nick? What do you collect?
Well, I don't really collect anything per se. I do have a bunch of theme park like knickknacks, miscellaneous things. I guess the thing I have the most of is like roller coaster shirts and polos. I really like that the parks are coming out with like some polo shirts now with the roller coaster logos
I
on them.
like that too.
So I've got a couple of those. I've got
Fancy.
a great Mako one, a Fury 325 one, some just generic theme park like logo shirts. Those are good. I also have some knickknacks like the metal models. I think it's Coaster Dynamics that makes those. Those are awesome. And one of my favorite things that I have is the piece of wood from Mean Streak with the Steel Vengeance logo on it that I got from Media Day.
Ooh.
Steel Vengeance. That thing is on my desk. I love it.
That is cool.
Nice.
What do you collect?
Yeah, I forgot about those T-shirts. You know, I have them too, and
Oh my god.
talking
Yeah.
about polos, they have one from Baron 1898, and it's pretty cool.
I always messed with the date, and I was like 1989.
Baron.
Yeah, I was thinking,
By Taylor
and then did I get it right? Okay.
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah, Alex is big on T-shirts too.
I have so many T-shirts, and
Like-
my mother really taught me to just never throw anything away ever. So
So moving from like California to Alabama to Orlando, it was like the amount of damn T-shirts I've seen now. It's like
My parents live in Alabama. That's
Mentally
why we stopped
damaged.
there. That's where a lot of my stuff was, and so we brought the stuff. When my mom kept pulling out these boxes, like, "Oh, here's more of your T-shirts that I kept." And I'm like, "I'm so proud of you." But yeah, T-shirts, like, it's the best way to get, something that's kind of useful, that looks nice, and it packs easily. Like I know people who collect shot glasses, and those, not only do you have to dust those a lot, but like it's also a perfectly good chance that like every time you buy a shot glass, you risk also like breaking it on your way to your house. Like glass souvenirs and stuff like that can
Yeah.
be challenging for that reason. But yeah, so T-shirts. My number one thing though that I collect is keychains.
and not just a few keychains.
I have thousands and thousands of keychains, not just from theme parks, but primarily theme parks, but also just from anywhere that I've ever been. And they're the bane of Sean's existence because they're everywhere.
They're very cute once every 5 months.
There's a few. I love trying to show him my keychains. He's like, "That's great, babe. That's
No,
that's just like all
I'm a
the other ones."
respectful partner. I watched the entire show, and I'm like, love it. But then I'm really excited to put them away.
But where do you keep them then?
In the closet right now. Someday we'll have another bedroom, and it'll be the keychain room. And all of my cork boards
keychain
of
room.
keychains that are organized by region and year can go on the wall.
Yeah, we can open a keychain museum of Orlando.
Yeah.
And like be legit.
People in Orlando would work. I think people would be, like if the Holy Land experience can make it, so could our keychain.
The whole keychain
emporium.
experience.
The keychain land.
Keychain.
The keychain land experience. But yeah, so really, shirts, keychains, and then anything unusual. Like sometimes you'll go to a park and they have a souvenir of some kind that you're like, oh, that's different. Like I have a little tea set from Canopy Lake, like little tiny ceramic saucer and cups with like rides on them. It's like the most random thing. I've never been to a park before where I've seen like a miniature tea set with rides on it. So obviously I bought it. And then like there was, when I went to Happy Valley in Shenzhen, the one that has Bullet Coaster, the best launch coaster in the world,
Show off on the.
except for Lightning Rod. They have a Huss Topspin there, themed to a transformer of some kind of like the one at Movie Park Germany. And it's apparently really popular because they have a 3D foam puzzle of their Topspin. So, like, I haven't put it up, but I bought it because I'm like, this is so bizarre.
It's
not
so
just
strange. It's
like
just
a real
Topspin,
puzzle, but it's a
too.
3D, and I think it works. Like, I think you can spin the carriage and it actually like rotates.
Well, I do like the 3D like coaster and coaster dynamics.
Yeah, the nano coasters.
The
and
nano
stuff. Yeah,
coasters.
I have one of those too.
Those are pretty sick. Like, we have a little Fury one here.
Those are getting a lot of traction. I think they're great.
Yeah, you have one, don't you?
I have
yeah,
a couple of those, yeah.
that's cool. Which ones do you have?
I have Fury, I have Steel Vengeance, and just those two.
Yeah, we have
That's
Fury.
cool. Yeah, we have Fury.
Is yours painted?
No.
Okay.
Sweet. Yeah, because now they're painting them. I think I like the silver aesthetic more, the old
Yeah,
aesthetic.
the
Yeah.
silver ones I think are a little cooler. Although, like if you're trying to match with decor, like I think the painted ones have their place as well. It kind of just depends on the coaster. But it's a really nice color. Like if they made a Mako one, like I would love to have a painted Mako one.
Yes.
But if it was like
Well,
Dragon,
Mako has the best paint scheme.
if it was like Dragon at Ocean Park and it's like
It'd be too much.
17 colors, I'd be
Why
like,
put
that's
this?
okay. This doesn't go with anything in my house. We're just gonna put it in the guest bathroom.
At the same time, in a way, it does, because every color possible is in there.
That's
Without
basically,
the light green in this room.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And what I really collect is like flat bill snapbacks, anywhere possible. I have one from every single Disney resort now. My favorite one would be like the Hong
Wait,
Kong
you
Disney
still don't have
ones.
one from Walt Disney World.
Oh, I guess that's just a
We
regular
bought those
Mickey Mouse one.
snapbacks at Publix. They don't
It's
count.
true. It's true. I'm missing one from Walt Disney World.
The Publix near Disney World has lots of merchandise, including really nice hats, and we bought those just because they were $10. But he still needs one from the resort proper to complete
Yeah.
his collection.
But some cool ones that I do have would be like a really nice Leviathan one
Mm-hmm.
from Canada's Wonderland. Definitely the most expensive piece of merch I probably ever purchased,
Yeah,
but it was
like
worth
40
it.
bucks, but it was
60 bucks.
beautiful.
It was really nice. And then what else do I have? That's funny.
Hoodies.
Oh, I got a Fury one. That's pretty nice. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
I'm really big on collecting
Yeah,
hoodies.
hooded sweatshirts.
Yeah, Hang Time,
Your
Aftershock.
hooded sweatshirt. From
See,
Silverwood has amazing merchandise, you guys. I don't know.
It's really out of the way, so if you get there, you might as well buy a sweater.
Yeah. If you go there, you're probably only going to go there once, so buy the merchandise.
Yes, that's really what I'm big on: hoodies or hooded sweatshirts and snapbacks.
At least your stuff is like, you can wear it, it's actually useful.
Yep.
Unlike my keychains, which
Well,
they look really nice.
appreciate the passion, man.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, you guys also have stuff on your wall, right?
Oh yes, yeah. We are recently in the whole theme of buying the Made to Thrill posters. A little plug for
Yeah,
MadeToThrill.com.
MadeToThrill.com.
They have the greatest posters, self-designed. You have a Tron poster, Kumba, Viper, and Matterhorn.
Yeah.
All some of our very, very
They're
favorites.
situated in our living room.
And then Nick also bought some Made to Thrill stuff. What'd you get?
I bought a bunch of T-shirts and the sticker pack, so
Stickers.
love those T-shirts.
Stickers.
You know
Making
who
a
else
comeback.
liked stickers? Lisa Frank.
Yeah,
But they weren't as nice.
they should collab.
Oh my god.
I really need to look her up.
You Google Lisa Frank, you will not be disappointed. I
Made-
think it's really your aesthetics, man.
The Lisa Franks collection by
My
Made to Thrill.
aesthetic.
It's also like if Lisa Frank and Ocean Park collaborated, because that would be the real dream. Like they could really just repaint it and retheme it to like Lisa Frank the Ride Dragon. Absolutely.
Still have to Google her, but
Ooh.
I'll do that at a later time. The next question that is a really cliche question, but Sven came up with it, and I really appreciate it. We're gonna go and wonder, what was everyone's first theme park and first roller coaster? What was yours, Sven?
Well, it wasn't an easy question actually to answer myself, but I think my first theme park was Meli Park in Belgium, which now became Plopsaland like 20 years ago.
Which one? The Co?
The original Plopsaland.
No, the original one at
Oh,
at the beach in the Panne.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was really nice. It was basically Meli is a brand for honey, and so they created a theme park around it. So I remember also going with school and learning about the bees and everything. So it also was educational. And then coaster-wise, it wasn't that special, but it had like a huge flying carpet and a dark ride, the Apirama dark ride, which was really cool as well. But as for first coaster, I'm not sure if it was like the seated one right there, like the Ladybug coaster design type.
For the Tivoli ones.
Yeah, the Tivolis, exactly. But I do remember my first inversion coaster, and that was Cobra at Walibi Belgium.
Oh, the Coma Boomerang?
So, yeah, it's a boomerang.
We approve.
So it was not that special, but
We disagree.
well,
To be fair,
For us,
the
it
original
wasn't
color
that special.
scheme on Cobra was cool, like with the dark blue and dark red.
I remember that from Roller Coaster Tycoon.
It was so unconventional. Having like a dark blue track and red supports. I feel like everyone had like red track and blue supports, you know. But they,
All the Superman coasters.
Yeah, 'cause all
they
Superman
flipped the
coasters.
script.
but yeah.
but
I
now
like that.
now it's gone.
It's
Wait.
gone?
Yeah, not the coaster.
Oh
the-
yeah,
thank
yeah. The
God.
colors are
scheme.
yellow and purple,
Don't
right?
scare us
Shocker.
like that, Sven. Jesus.
Yeah, it's getting ready for Karma World, the new themed area at Walibi Belgium.
Are they gonna give it a boomerang makeover like they did at the other parks?
I'm not sure. They haven't said anything about it, but for now we only know that it has a new color scheme, and the station was pretty ugly. So I hope that they found something nice for that as well.
Might as well add a new train to it then.
Yeah. MK1212.
But then-
please.
Yeah, but then the same day I rode Vampire, an SLC, hooray, and also a Schwarzkopf coaster.
Turbine.
Then it was still Turbine. Yeah, that was really cool.
I love that.
That is what I need.
I haven't ridden it, but I love it.
Wait, did you ride as Turbine or did you ride as Sirocco?
Not as Sirocco, but I rode it as Turbine, and I really liked how you stepped in. All of a sudden it was dark and you launched at the exact same time, so that gave a nice effect.
That's cool.
Fun fact, they put that ride in a building for two reasons. One, because it was loud, and there's residential areas over there, right? And number two, there was a highly publicized incident where the ride
yeah.
got stuck in the loop,
And it hung there.
Oh, yeah.
and no one got hurt, except probably emotionally, because I think hanging from a Schwarzkopf lap bar in a loop sounds like really terrible. And
Yeah,
it
it's
was-
not my choice.
And
Fun.
apparently, like, so they killed two birds with one stone. They put the loop in a box because they were like, okay, this is going to help dampen the sound. Also, to trick people into thinking that the ride was different now because the incident was so highly publicized and was really bad press for the park.
It's funny.
And
that's
now it's
everywhere else.
completely covered.
Yeah, and now Psyche Underground is a totally enclosed ride because it would pop out.
Psyche Underground.
Yeah.
They got the soundtrack.
The soundtrack.
I love this song.
Gerschlauer.
So, what about you, Sean?
Well, yeah. So my first go. It's like a bit of an embarrassing story. So my very first roller coaster was the Coyote und
Coyote und Roadrunner.
Roadrunner
Roller coaster.
Achterbahn
Achterbahn.
in Warner Brothers Movie World, Germany, in Bottrop-Kirchen.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's Movie Park Germany.
So that was honestly the best themed roller skater ever built. Like even Disney couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like completely engulfed in rockwork. It was like a mini Big Thunder Mountain, but it was actually used as a little
It was beautiful.
roller skater. I was scared shitless. My first big theme park, first roller coaster, but I had to get on one.
Are we allowed to swear on here?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just asking. Serious question. 'Cause I
I
like
feel
swearing.
like that's not much of a swear word.
Yes, it is.
Anyways, I was getting to the part where I peed my pants because I was so nervous, and then we spent 2 hours in the restroom trying to get it all like fixed up. But it was worth it because it was a great little first roller coaster. And then we did Tom and Jerry Mouse in the House right next to it after that, which is my Mac
Mouse.
Mouse. Our first inverting coaster was Looping Star in Slagharen. Made rest in peace. But it was
Classic Schwarzkopf.
my entire family. I think their first their first looping coasters were all
Yeah.
that same Schwarzkopf.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not a coaster family, but every single person in my immediate family that was their first looping
That
coaster.
was like the Dutch. It was like iconic.
Yeah, it was iconic.
That
yeah.
one in Python.
yeah,
Definitely.
that was like the icon before Python.
And now Thunder Looper. What is that? Thunder Loop? Is that what it's called?
It was called Thunder Loop for a
Looping
while,
Thunder?
sort
Yeah.
of. Yeah,
Now it's in Cyprus, and it's everyone in
Yes.
Cyprus's first looping coaster.
it's true because Cyprus doesn't have any looping
Cyprus
coasters
doesn't have any other coasters
or any coaster in
of
general.
any kind.
So yeah, that was my first because that was actually closer to me than most of the European parks. Because I lived on the border, yeah. And yeah, I do really hold that place highly. Even though I know I've seen some rough times after they lost their Warner Brothers license and they got sold a few times. I think Moon Park is coming out of it pretty strong. I think they're doing okay.
Everybody loves a good comeback, and that's exactly
They're
what's
doing
happening.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're doing.
The Star Trek ride is a knockout.
Yeah, I love Star Trek. It's definitely much different than all the other Macs. Not as airtime oriented. It has a lot more hang time rather than like going through the layout fast. But yeah, it's a good ride.
I love the pre-shows.
Nick, what
In
is your?
German?
In German, yeah.
Yeah, I still love them even though I can't understand them.
Yeah, Borg Cube.
That's how I feel about any foreign ride, like in China or Germany. It's like, oh, all the pre-show and everything's in German.
It
or
adds a little magic, but it's a
Japanese.
different language.
But I'm like, I can just imagine it being something really cool that they're saying, even if it's just like safety procedures.
Please stay seated with your head back. Look forward. Launch. We're like,
Sounds way
yes!
cooler in
We're like
Chinese.
clapping. How about you, Nick? What was your first theme park?
My first theme park was Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney World.
Oh.
I grew up going to
Aw.
these parks. Yeah, my family was a huge theme park family, so we always went to Disney every year for vacations, and yeah. And so that was my first park. My first roller coaster was Space Mountain, and I just remember being terrified getting in line. Going back a little before that, when Tower of Terror opened, maybe it was like the year or two after it opened, I was like 5 or 6, and we were in line, and I remember getting into the first pre-show room with the like the TV screen, and thinking that was the ride, and just freaking out and crying. Yeah, we left down the chicken elevator they had in the middle of the low
Chicken
platform
elevator.
because I was just like, I wasn't having it. So I finally got up the courage to ride Space Mountain a couple of years later. That was my first roller coaster, and I've been hooked ever since. And then my first like big looping roller coaster was Dueling Dragons Fire. Rest in peace. Miss those rides.
Let's have a moment of silence.
Did you ride extraterrestrial alien encounter?
I did not, unfortunately. I really wish I
Aw.
had, but that was also one of those
I
things.
feel like that's everyone's nightmare.
Yeah, that was back when I was still too
had
afraid.
a meltdown. The whole family. Because we were there in 99, and we're Disneyland people. And we're like, oh, this will be fun. It seems interesting. And, like, it was so over the top and so scary. And I was 8. And
Should give a little bit of a background on the ride because I'm pretty sure a lot of our readers may not exactly know what the ride or the attraction was.
I guess all you Floridians out here, you know about extraterrestrial alien encounter. It used to be the rocket ship to the moon theater attraction. It wasn't really a ride. It was just like a basic circular theater facing the center, and it was meant to simulate, a rocket ship take off into Earth. But once that became
Into Earth?
I'm sorry. I mean, you do wind up back at Earth.
That's
again,
a Disney scene.
eventually. Yeah, journey to the center of space. But then after the whole, I mean, once NASA was routinely going to Earth or going to the moon, excuse me, it was really not that exciting, like the concept. So they're like, okay, we're gonna partner with the Alien franchise and do a ride where you're like being attacked by the alien monster, and then actually the cross branding between Alien and Disney that never went to fruition because they kind of doubled down, or they backed out because it was an R-rated franchise. Although they did have an alien scene in the Great Movie Ride, they ultimately decided to do a custom storyline. Problem was the ride was already built, so they kind of shoehorned them a basic a custom story out of it. And basically, so you're part of this was part of the 1994 remodel of Tomorrowland, and you were doing some sort of intergalactic commerce or something. I think they were demonstrating teleportation pods. And then, the teleportation thing is intercepted by a carnivorous alien that is sort of like a giant, oversized housefly monster. And you're, in the theater, and you're kind of stuck in there, and, there's a lot of, there was a part where, the lights would go out, and you could hear the monster running around, and, a cast member screaming, and then the lights come on, and it's, raining blood, and there's, tattered cast member uniform, hanging from the catwalk.
Sounds very Disney.
Oh, my God. I mean, I still remember just being totally traumatized. I was like, I can't do this.
Didn't those seats have restraints because people tried to get out?
Yeah, they had these horse collar things that were sort of like a normal shoulder harness, but they didn't come down over your chest really. They were just over your neck.
Oh, so is it?
So they were sort of.
Are they kind of like the Intamin free fall, like the first generation, where it's almost like you were a little?
It was sort of It was. I know someone did. I think the nail in the coffin for that thing was that someone did try to Someone did successfully weasel themselves out of the harness because they were so terrified, and they hurt themselves pretty badly. They dislocated their shoulder or something. Don't quote me on that, but I just know someone got hurt trying to get out of alien encounter, and so they turned it into Stitch Encounter.
So Nick, on the topic of Tomorrowland and that being your first roller coaster, or Space Mountain rather, which side do you prefer?
I honestly can't tell the difference.
You gotta pick a side.
I gotta pick a side.
Your choices are Alpha or Omega.
Yeah. I also go with the Alpha side. That's the one on the left, right?
If you walk right in, it'd be on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one I feel like I get pushed to the most. So.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, the other day, I mean, I'm usually terrified to ride because the clearances are so not top people friendly. There's so much room between my lap bar because it's on my knees, and my nose. So I get to on the drops, I get some actual air and I fly out of my seat, but then the clearances are so low and that structure is just scary stuff. Just for you tall people out there, don't ride it. Actually ride it, but be careful.
Just don't put your hands up.
I really want to get a lights on ride one of these days. That's a bucket list thing.
Sean got one on the Anaheim Space Mountain, his very first Space Mountain ride.
I was quite upset because I had watched these videos to ride layout because I was a nerd, and then I rode it, and then the lights are on. I was like, great, I came here for the stars, not for the ride. Now, what's your first, Alex?
My first roller coaster, my first theme park are the same place, but not the same year. My first trip to Disneyland, I'm pretty sure my mother was 8 months pregnant with me, if that counts. Because I know we were at Disneyland a month before I was born. And then probably also visits to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk from the time
I feel like you were conceived in the Beach Boardwalk.
That's what my dad always says. He was like, you were conceived on the Giant Dipper, son.
I'd buy it.
Fun fact.
That's for my parents. My parents were ride operators at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. They met when they were 19. So the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk is pretty much our family crest. So either the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk or Disneyland, which my parents grew up going to Disneyland periodically, and my sister, who's 5 years older than me, always loved Disney, and that was where she went every year for her birthday. And my sister her birthday's in July, mine's in August. So I know that for my sister's 5th birthday, we went to Disneyland, and I was born 3 weeks later. And then also we went again when I was 11 months old, and a year and 11 months old. And then the year that we went when I was 2 and
I
11
actually remember
months.
those dates. Keep going.
So it's my sister's birthday. That's what I remember. It's always right before my sister's birthday. Right before I turned 3, so this was my sister's 8th birthday. We went to ride Matterhorn bobsled, and these were the old bob configuration where you could sit in someone's lap. I think the height requirement was 35 inches, which is I think what isn't that what like Gadgets Go Coaster and like Barnstormer?
I usually hear 36, but last person to ask what height minimums is me.
Well, yeah, right. We worry about the height maximums with you. But yeah, so my parents were going to do the child swap thing because that's just what they were expecting because they didn't even plan on me being able to ride. But the cast member just ushered us all into the bob all together. And so I sat in my mom's lap. So I was not yet 3 when I rode the Matterhorn bobsleds, and it's still one of my favorite roller coasters.
I feel like you must be one of the youngest people to get on a roller coaster. Though the skitty coasters, I guess.
I know some people
Are pretty
who
friendly, too.
rode
Yeah.
like I have a friend who rode the Great American Scream Machine at Six Flags Over Georgia when he was 2, because they just used to not have any sort of height thing. Like if you could sit
Oh,
upright
wow.
in the seat and hold on,
That thing has buzz bars.
you could ride.
Kick
Yeah,
out air.
yeah, I know. Can you imagine a 2-year-old that I ride with buzz bars?
Like, we're
It's
gonna talk
yeah.
airtime.
There was no seatbelts. There was no height requirement. It was just like, all right, it's up to you. It's up to mom and dad. Like, you know, practice their discretion.
That's funny. So the next question I got is, what is the most memorable coaster experience? Nick,
You're up, Nick.
Oh man, I'm not ready for this.
putting you on the spot. Kidding.
Yeah.
We can
Oh, no.
Do you need some time? We
No, I can
come back to
go.
you.
I can go. This probably why this one ranks in my like top 5. Magnum XL 200. One of my first trips up to Cedar Point. We rode that at sunset. You know, just I don't know. It's when I fell in love with that ride. It's got many quirks to it. Like it's it feels like the wheels are square sometimes, and it knows you went in a lap bar. But just riding that with my friends and just laughing our asses off at how much like not really pain we were in, but just like how ridiculous that ride treats its riders. It just was so much fun.
The way that some of the Aero Hypers track is pretty. It's entertaining, not necessarily.
But it's
for the
also
right
terrifying.
Because like Pepsi Max and Desperado
Desperado.
are the same way.
Yeah.
Like we love them and we're entertained by them, but they also hurt.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
But yeah, and that's what makes it so memorable for me is that was when I was like, all right, this is one of my favorite rides. It's just fun, and that's what I look for in ranking rides.
That's fair. Yeah. What is yours, Sven?
Well, mine is at Parc Asterix.
Ooh.
I
It was
remember
I love your pronunciation of
Yeah.
Parc Asterix.
It's nice hearing someone pronounce it correctly instead of like what I try to do, which is the Americanized version of every European.
So
park
it's
name.
not Park Asterix.
It's
Park Asterix,
Parc Asterix.
or as we call it on the H
Yeah.
trip, Park Asterix.
Hey, sirs.
for me. It's the other way around. I love how people mispronounce names like that. Probably I do it sometimes too. So, but yeah. So we were at the park. It was sunny as usual. So it was t-shirt weather. And then the lines there for Tonnerre de Zeus are always hell. Like usually it's like 80 minutes. For me, that's hell. And
That's fair.
we decided to save it for the last ride of the day, and we started in the queue and we waited for like 40 minutes, and then all of a sudden it gets dark. It starts to rain. It starts to thunder and lightning. Very suiting for that ride.
Yeah.
A little bit of the theme.
But I was there in my t-shirt, remember? So it was pretty cold, and the wind was blowing, and people were leaving the queue. The park was still half an hour open, and I was like, oh shit, we waited for nothing. But then a quarter before the end, they opened the ride back up. So it had rained, and so for those of you that don't know, it's a wooden coaster. And it was on the edge of, is this safe or is this fun?
Yeah.
Like,
I think
and
that's
it's
how
such a
all of our
long
stories
ride.
start.
Like, I had my cell phone and everything. I was so scared of losing it, and I couldn't really see what was going on, but the thrill and the excitement, and we were with a group of friends, and somebody's mom was on there as well. So I was like, "Oh, poor woman," and but yeah, in the end, it's like I remember it as being cool but terrifying at the same time. So
It's
it
kind of
was
funny.
one of the best rides I ever had, though.
On the topic of like rides opening right before park closing, we were at Walibi Holland earlier this year, and like they were testing Express early in the day, and it valleyed, and they were like, the ride's down for the day, you can't ride it. We're like super upset. Then we see this large crane when we come back from lunch, and they literally took the train off the track with the crane,
Car by car.
car by car,
Disconnected it.
and in 50 minutes before closing, mind you, it's an empty day. There's no one at this park.
1-5.
1-5. Like there's 50 minutes
15
left.
minutes before the park closed.
We hear screaming, or like, what the heck? And like we see that they are running Express.
Everyone's running to
Oh,
the
wow.
ride
And
because
everyone's
they
running
opened
to
it.
Express. The entire queue was full. All the park guests from the day were in there. I can't believe that the park would put in the effort. I mean, their operations are pretty shit sometimes. But the fact that they put in all the effort into opening a coaster 50 minutes before closing on like a weekday, there was no one there, and
And
they had to literally take a train off the track with a crane in order to run it. I call it.
And
dedication.
I needed the credit.
And he
I
needed
was
the
very
credit.
excited. Even though
Yeah.
it's just the outdoor version of Rock and Roller Coaster, it's my favorite of the three.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful for that.
Yeah, for some reason it feels faster than the other two in my
Especially the
mind.
launch.
I think it has less
Faster.
drag because the Sobot, the onboard audio, is so heavy.
Yeah, when you come into like the mid courses on the Rock and Roller Coasters, you really feel like it's kind of like making it through barely. But then like on Express, you kind of coast through that really quickly. I mean, there's no actual breaks
yeah.
there, but
Yeah, there's no mid.
you come into it much faster too.
Are
Yeah.
there?
No, there's no.
There's-
well, there's
there's-
one mid course.
Is because
But
the
it's-
second one's not there.
it's more like-
The second mid course is you just roll through it.
No, the
There's
first one you go through it,
Oh,
and
the
then
first
the
one you
second
go
one
through.
you.
The second one is
you-
there.
Yeah, it's like a
Okay.
trim. What's yours? What's your favorite? Most memorable?
My most memorable. I mean, I've had a lot of great. I have a lot of good. Like I think good roller coaster stories are kind of like fishing stories. Like everyone's got a lot of good ones. Then the more you do it, the more you have. So it's like it's hard for me to pick just one. But I think
Well, you got it.
one that thanks, Dave. One that really sticks out in my mind is the Wild Mouse Raton Loco spinning mouse at La Feria Chapultepec Magico in Mexico City. They run this Wild Mouse with no trims or anything. They just let it keep going until.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I just imagine the little circular mice just like shearing off of the axles and flying into the park like frisbees, like because it just goes so inappropriately fast. Per how this, like, I think it's a Rivertron mouse, like the ones at Disney World. And if you could just imagine them never ever stopping at any point to slow down and just getting faster and faster. This thing was so violent. I was sitting by myself on one side, and I had two friends in the two seats on the other side, and like I was just sliding around in my seat back and forth because the turns were so violent. And I at one point I just got sick. Like my hip was starting to hurt because I kept sliding. And so I put my hand out to catch myself, and I dislocated my wrist on one of the turns of this ride. And
Medical emergency in Mexico. It sounds like my kind
and
of
I was
day.
like, that's literally. I'm like, I can't. My friends were. They turned pale. They were like, oh my god, are you okay? And I'm like, well, I have an old wrist injury from middle school where I fell down a flight of stairs because I am super graceful. And so I can manually dislocate and relocate my wrists.
Please don't.
I wish I could show you all.
Everyone's, like,
all of
shaking
your
their heads
listeners
right
here. If
now.
you can imagine me being able to just pop it in and out of place. I can do that.
You pop that
But
in
it's
and
the
out.
first time that a roller coaster had ever done it for me. So so during after the shock of that having happened subsided, I just popped it back into place myself because I'm like I can't go to an ER in Mexico. I've got rides to ride. I've got coasters to There's this park has two Schwarzkopfs, and I intend on riding them both numerous times. Particularly the triple loop one, Chimera, is like the most violent roller coaster I've ever ridden, except for maybe the Wild Mouse right next to it. Because at least Chimera didn't, cause me any sort of bodily harm. But yeah, my fingers didn't work for a couple hours. I was just kind of like exercising them. Just to make, because the ligaments are just like, what the hell? Like, this isn't supposed to happen. But it ended up being kind of a non-event, aside from just being a funny story. I didn't have to go have it x-rayed or anything, fortunately.
See, my like favorite or most memorable coaster moment is definitely not as dramatic. I mean, I peed my pants pretty memorable, but I think the one that sticks out the most is we were as fortunate as we were. We went to Shanghai. We had planned like 4 theme parks. It was all gonna be great, and then like the snowstorm moves in. Like after 6 years of no snow, and all of a sudden all these theme parks are closed. So we're like forced to go to Shanghai Disney for like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And so, but at one point it started snowing so incredibly bad that the entire park pretty much cleared. People were over it. It was like 8 hours of nonstop snow.
Yeah.
And we're just amazed the park was still open. And us being who we are, we just decided to marathon Tron the last night. We got like 40 rides in total. And I think that's the most memorable moment. There was literally no one in the Tron queue. We were the only people on the Tron train. There was just like an entire operation just for us, and then like every time you would come through the canopy covers the train from snow, but there's one part of the turn where like the canopy ends and you just go with the light cycle. It's like
Through a
mini
curtain of
blizzard.
snow.
So like every ride we're like just waiting for the moment that we're like it's getting like this face full of snow and then going inside the warm show building. It was just a weird thing.
It was so magical.
So it was pretty
really
magical, especially because the last thing you think of is getting on a Disney e-ticket attraction like 40 times in a trip without having
Yeah.
to like share a train with
the
anyone.
only price we paid was a face full of snow.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of those things.
In your face.
Yeah. We also, I mean, they have the Snow White coaster there too. I like Orlando's version better than Shanghai's because Orlando's has the
Midway.
it has it's better integrated and it's got the queue interaction games and stuff and it's got that scene at the end that was rescued from the Snow White Scary Adventures ride, the scene of Snow White and Dopey dancing in the house. But we'll never be able to say that we rode Orlando's Snow White coaster in the snow, but we did.
It's not
in
as
Shanghai.
glorious as it sounds. It's just so cold.
It was very cold, but we're like, look, it's Snow White. We're in the snow. It's so funny and ironic. I can't feel my face.
I can feel my face, but I'm with you. And on that topic, And on that topic, we're gonna go to our next question, which is, what is a coaster that you miss the most? Like a coaster that you rode, and now it's defunct, and you're like, well, that sucks. I missed the ride. So I'm waiting for you, bud.
Yeah, it's your turn.
You're waiting for me?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, there is none
Really?
that I rode and that's no longer there.
Okay, you get an exit pass. You're allowed to choose something you didn't ride.
Well, there is one that I rode and I didn't ride, and that's Space Mountain de la Terre à la Lune
Oh,
in
wow.
Original
Disneyland
Space
Paris.
Mountain, yeah.
Not a
I
gracious
remember my
pronunciation.
dad going on when I was there, and there was still a walkway into the Space Mountain section where you could watch the ride. And at that time, I was terrified, so I was like, I'm not going on this. But now, of course, I regret it very much. And I think I wasn't even tall enough yet, but I really want to ride it, because Space Mountain Mission 2... And everything from what I hear from the original one, it was okay. Hyperspace was an improvement for me. Like, you have a lot of nice effects with the lasers going on and with the inversions. But I'm hoping that they will bring back the original one, as many fans are hoping for as well.
Yeah, that's a
the
rumor,
new
isn't
train
it?
design could suggest it, but we'll see.
That's awesome. What's yours, babe?
I think of all the coasters that I've ridden that are now demolished, I think my favorite is the Georgia Cyclone. I don't have any bitterness over it being turned into Twisted Cyclone because that's a great ride in its own right. Like we've ridden like almost a dozen of those the RMC Iron Horses, and like while I feel that they're all starting to become formulaic, they're very like derivative of each other. Twisted Cyclone I like because it doesn't really overstay its welcome. It's the shortest one. They didn't try to do more than they should have. It doesn't run out of gas at the end. Some of them, like Storm Chaser and like Medusa Steel Coaster, some of them like definitely, I don't know if it's the wheels they run or what, they kind of just meander back into the station after a pretty intense ride to begin with. But Twisted Cyclone doesn't do that. It's just very simple. It's like 2,600 feet long. I know people were fighting to have that third lap. You know, all the Cyclone Clothes are a 3-lap ride, and there were people that were, you know, personally offended that it only was a 2-lap reconfigure. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just right, and it's different. It does some stuff that some of the earlier RMCs haven't done. So as much as I miss the old version, and like that, after coming around the second turnaround, the drop off of the second turnaround in the back seat was just one of the craziest airtime moments ever. Like it'll put you in your friend's lap if your lap bar isn't as far down as it possibly can be. But you know, maintaining wooden coasters in the Southeast is hard and it's expensive, and humidity is not a friend of wooden coasters. So I don't, and the ridership for it was not good, considering it was right at the front of the park and it never really had much of a line. Was just kind of an indicator that they were not getting out of it what they could with that space. So people were skeptical about whether or not it would even be a good idea or worth the effort. You know, independently of whether or not people really wanted it to happen. It was my favorite ride at that park, but I don't mind that it happened because it's a good ride, and they're taking advantage of the space and, you know, the potential. It's exactly what the Iron Horse coaster should be, which is, you know, taking problematic, expensive to maintain wooden coasters, particularly ones from like the Din Summers and like Bill Cobb kind of era of oversized wooden coasters, and making them into a star attraction for the park, something that really takes advantage of the space they occupy, and especially when you have one as like the front of your park. You know, it's the first thing you see when you drive up. Now is this beautiful blue and silver RMC. Like you know, I as much as I miss the old one, I'm perfectly content with the replacement, and it's a great ride.
Now on that topic, Nick is the only one that's ridden both Steel Vengeance, which is like obviously the biggest production when it comes to any RMC.
Yeah.
And it's ridden the smallest little RMC.
Yeah.
What do you think? Well, like the difference of what would you describe, like?
So I was actually really impressed with what Twisted Cyclone packed into its small footprint. Like that ride is just almost nonstop intensity. Like every element is just like there's no room to breathe between them. So I was really impressed with that. Whereas I mean, Steel Vengeance too. It's nonstop elements, but there's at least, you know, a little bit of downtime in between some. Like you have that mid course brake run that runs through, and then a little bit after I think it's called the Twisting Snake Dive, where that's not before the mid-course brake run, but yeah.
So creative.
Yeah, there's just, I don't know. It's hard to compare because they are so different, but it's really impressive what RMC can do, and even when you have a smaller ride, they can still make it something impressive.
Yeah, because like pulling up, because I always considered Joker at Discovery Kingdom to be like the smaller RMC. And actually pulling up to Sickers over Georgia and then seeing Twisted Cyclone, I was like, well, this thing is particularly small.
Yeah.
And like when you're actually on it, it just kind of reminds you of how terribly small it is. But then the elements they managed to put in there, it creates a really, really unique kind of ride, which I always kind of feel like it's hard to add some RMC to create something really unique because you're limited to wooden structure, you're going to copy elements everyone loves, but that thing does some cool stuff. Now, Nick, what is the actual like roller coaster that you miss?
Definitely Son of Beast. No, I'm just kidding. No, the one I miss the most is Dragon Challenge or Dueling Dragons. I really do miss when it dueled. That was, if I was into taking photos back when I was dueling, I really wish I could have taken a lot of cool shots of that, just because there were so many iconic like moments that you could get. And plus, those inverts were really intense. I remember Fire being my first invert and coming off that ride dizzy, and you walk out of that exit hallway and it's like a pitch black hallway almost, and just stumbling through it. Like wow, that was, what did I just get off of? So I really miss those two rides. They really complement each other well. They were great.
That's awesome. Yeah, so for me, the coaster I miss the most, I guess, it will be Cop Car Chase. Or I guess it's open as Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, so Warner Brothers Movie World, Movie Park Germany had this really cool, Too Good for This World racing, Intamin, looping coasters, and I didn't really think much of it when I was younger. I just kind of thought it was, it was a scary coaster for a kid, but in general, I didn't realize how special that ride was because it was my home park. So we rode that on a school trip. And it was pretty exciting, especially when the fire effects ran over the trains. It was all pretty impressive to me, even though I do realize in retrospect that it may have not been the best kept coaster. But then when I actually removed it and I started like becoming more involved in the coaster community, I really kind of felt bad that it was gone because it got replaced by a cheap copy of the Santa Monica Pier that's not at all like the Santa Monica Pier, and it was just I don't know. I feel like maybe if they held on to Cop Car Chase a little bit longer, they put a little bit more money into it, even though they were having financial issues. I think that would have been a coaster that appreciated in value, but you know.
Ironically, that was literally what Knott's Berry Farm was trying to achieve with Windjammer Surf Racers. Like, Cop Car Chase was the successful version of that.
Yep, Intamin.
Like a couple, like two small coasters. Each coaster sat 8 people per train, and it had a nice, vertical loop and some interaction.
Yep.
Cop Car Chase had barrel rolls, didn't it?
Yep, 2 barrel rolls rolling towards each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a neat ride. I think the moral to the story is that like
Racing coasters do
dueling
not last.
dueling coasters are often an over speculation of a park's pull and finances, because I feel like there are more dueling and racing coasters that have been demolished than are currently like still operating, because they're expensive and it's hard to convince a park from like a marketing standpoint that you need 2 identical or virtually identical rides of the same caliber. Because that's really what I think like what the downfall was with Dueling Dragons was you already had an amazing major thrill coaster in the form of Hulk at the front of the park. You take virtually the most high capacity thrill coaster ever built and put it in the back of your park. Of course, lines and stuff and capacity were, it just wasn't a good balance. And ultimately, they're like, well, we really didn't need 3 of these incredibly narrow, niche coasters of like, well, like you have to be 54 inches to ride all of these, and like people with weaker constitutions are not going to be that into them. And then for Dueling Dragons for there to be 2 of them, it's like it's kind of like, well, you wouldn't expect a park to need like 2 Batman clones.
I feel like it was much more of
I
feel like I was much more like, well, we can, so we do.
They did it because they could.
But then I don't think enough thought was put into like needing the capacity, needing to the general public exactly the same rides.
It's like we went the year it opened. We went in the summer of 1999, and they were walk-ons. They could not fill the trains. They were running 3 trains each.
Wow.
I mean, literally, 6 trains.
Did they have 2 stations, unloading and loading?
Well, no. They did. They had disembarkment stations?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, because remember on the topic we were talking about like Hulk needing one, and then we were thinking, well, they don't really usually do that, but I guess Dragons had them, yeah.
That ride was a capacity marvel, but the fact that like a major Orlando operation couldn't fill the trains, like nobody could. Everything about that ride was so enigmatic and so hard to believe that it was built. And part of the reason of why it was hard to believe that it was built is because it probably shouldn't have been. Like, from a budgeting standpoint, it didn't. From an enthusiast standpoint, it's like, oh my god, this ride's a gift. And then it closes and everyone's like, what the hell? Like, how could you do this to this ride? But honestly, like, it was a financial misstep from the very beginning.
And if anything, J.K. Rowling didn't want that coaster around, but it was such a great place to stuff people when Harry Potter opened, because it's not a very large land, and you're going to open one of the most successful theme park lands in the world. You better have a dueling 6-train inverted coaster to push people into the queue.
It's funny how like that ride really came into its own 10 years after it debuted.
I think it would have been gone sooner if it weren't for Potter.
Yeah.
And on that topic, everyone that misses Dueling Dragons, I completely get your pain. Or at least Alex definitely will.
And Nick will. Or my first invert.
I feel pain.
But to be fair, I mean,
it was consolation. That
it was going to go at some point.
When they stopped doing them, honestly, I don't even blame Universal or J.K. Rowling. I blame I blame the public and loose article culture. And it's no coincidence that like the smartphone era happened, and suddenly like you can't have rides that duel in that capacity because people got hurt. People were either deliberately throwing things at each other or losing them out of their pockets, losing their phones, losing their keys. They become projectiles. And so the way I see it, like Dueling Dragons was it was too good for this world. Like people could not, it was too divine for humans, mere humans, to enjoy, because we ruined it, and we took the greatest thing about that ride, the dueling aspect. Once that was gone, I think a lot of people agree that once they stopped dueling, they stopped really being special, and then so it was only a matter of time before. Like, anyone who was surprised that they were demolished wasn't paying attention to the ride's timeline of pitfalls and losing everything that was special about it. When the Harry Potter thing happened and they lost that queue.
Well, the new queue.
The queue.
People liked the new queue,
but the original queue was just. It was stupid how incredible it was. It was like its own attraction, walking through like the big Knights at the Round Table thing, and all of the horsemen frozen into the ceiling, and the dungeons that's like floor to ceiling bones and skulls, and it was so over the top, and it was kind of a pity because the ride never had a line, so you would never have to stay and wait in that themed queue. It was always, you just kind of walked through it, but people would walk slowly because there was so much just to see. There was a church, there was a cathedral with stained glass windows, and there was like a book, like a tome at the altar that was like
kind of sounds like a Harry Potter queue.
It was so over the top. So that was like the first strike, and that was lost. The second strike, of course, was like no more dueling. And by that point, it was like I didn't even we could have gone and ridden it.
We definitely were considering to fly out just to ride it before it
got demolished. But for me, I'm like I never rode it as Dragon Challenge. My first trip to Harry Potter Land Orlando was last month. Like my prior visit to Universal was 2006 when Dragons was still completely intact, and that's how I wanted to remember it. So I kind of left it up to Sean, and then Sean you were kind of just like.
We already had some other trips planned. I just didn't feel like rushing a non-dueling Dragon Challenge when I had other options to go other places. So I actually personally never got to ride it, just like you, Sven. But knowing the backstory, sad I didn't ride it, but I just don't feel that particular about not having gotten on it, especially not because my time riding it would have been non-racing. And I'm honestly quite excited that Universal's managing. Because I wasn't sure if Harry Potter was going to stick or how long it was going to stick, but the fact that they're able to replace Dragon Challenge with a new family launch coaster with drop tracks and spikes and all that kind of stuff, it should allow itself to actually be better themed, which Dragon Challenge wasn't up to the
the sightlines were terrible,
weren't matching for Potter.
Because you would crest the lifts, and all you would see was the back lot.
You're on the gas station, right?
Yeah, it was not. There was a high school, right next to ice, like on the right next to fire, going over that first Immelman.
Oh,
Joe
Fire High
soccer
School
field. It was just not. It's like coming over the top of Accelerator and expecting to see something pretty, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with Anaheim, but it's not the Lost
Buena
Continent
Park
either. It's just that was. Even when I was a kid, I'm doing Dragons opened when I was 8, and we went. And even as a kid, I was already a jaded coaster enthusiast, and I'm like, "Oh, this is all so beautiful. The theme is great." And then you get up to the top of Dragons, you crest the lift, and it's just backlot. It's all the stuff that you ride through when you're going on the Hogwarts train. That of course they're deliberately obscuring your view of. Because they don't want to see it. They don't want people to see it.
Well, that's why the new Potter coaster will be the perfect fit.
Yeah.
Not only is Harry Potter a little, people grew up with Harry Potter, but I find that the franchise to be very allowing for families, and therefore the new coaster will be more allowing for that. And I just think that they kind of have a shot at redeeming themselves because Dragons were very loved. So I'm excited to see where they're going with that. And then on that topic, they're opening a new Jurassic Park coaster. And what year was it, Nick, that they're planning?
According to the report, it said 2020 or 2021, but that looks
I wouldn't be surprised
exciting.
if they tried to get that open before Guardians or Tron.
Just to
At
make
Walt
statement.
Disney
They've
World.
already started clearing land
just
behind
to get
Discovery
ahead of
Center,
it, get ahead of it.
they're getting there.
So Nick, what exactly can we expect of that coaster?
So according to the layout posted recently, WFTV posted one and Orlando Park Stop posted one as well. It looks like a multi-launch Intamin coaster with a lot of twisty spaghetti bits at the beginning, and then a launch out towards the water, up towards maybe a top hat, and then into another maybe a helix over towards the Potter section, and then racing back over the water into the station. It looks like it could be really exciting. I'm very excited.
Is it multi-launch?
Yeah, it looks like there's 2 launches.
Any versions?
Probably. All we've seen.
It looks like after that first launch, it kind of. From up in the air, it almost looks like a half loop.
We had complete Talon vibes, so I can completely see instead of the steampunk dragon or whatever is exactly on Talon, I can see a Velociraptor themed Jurassic World.
It's more like a medieval type of
medieval
monster.
There you go. No one knows what it really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're excited for that coaster. But it looks like the Orlando market is really starting to, or like the South Florida market rather, was really starting to fire up.
It's
The Coaster War
1999
again.
all over again, guys. 20 years later,
Mm-hmm.
1999 2.0.
Got like 6 coasters
But so-
in the next couple of years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So basically, the Harry Potter coaster would be more the family launched,
Yeah.
and then the Jurassic Park more the thrill launch.
yeah, that's what it kind of seems. Yeah, that's kind of seems. And
People are already asking,
And
like,
then Jurassic-
are these going to be really similar? And they're like, I don't
Yeah.
think so. I think,
well, I think the Jurassic Park will be more like a one-stop multi-launch coaster, fast action-packed kind of thing. It's where
Yeah.
Harry Potter's going to try and tell a story.
Yeah.
You're going to make stops. You're going to have drop tracks. You're going to have a lot of little effects. You know, it's going to be a roller coaster, but it's going to be not themed to one.
it's going to be pretty, like, yeah, it's going to tell a story. It's going to be the third installment in, Forbidden Journey. And just like how Gringotts, Escape from Gringotts is kind of a coaster incidentally. It doesn't do a whole lot of coastery bits, but it does. It's a coaster system because that's what made the most sense thematically. And then I would say that the Harry Potter coaster will be more coaster-like than Gringotts. It already appears to be because you're outside and there's lots of turns and
They're adding a lot of trees, so I'm
and-
really looking forward to it being, sightline friendly.
Yeah.
Because
I expect the Jurassic Park coaster to be pretty unapologetic in its coasteriness. Like, this is a coaster that's a coaster, and it's doing coaster. And we're not going to try to distract you from the fact that it's a roller coaster because for
and then
thematic
at the end of the
reasons.
day, just how to do it at Universal Japan.
Yeah,
The Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, it is at the end of the day, it's a theme park. So
Yeah.
they put coasters in there, and in Japan
Yeah.
too. Like the theme of
A
flying dinosaur is
it's a dinosaur themed coaster.
yeah. Guests get
That's the
experience
theme.
flying
Yeah.
under a dinosaur. Here's a prototype dinosaur flying machine. Go fly it, which is literally the roller
It's like
coaster.
So it's great.
So I'm pretty sure they can do the
It's
exact same
pretty
thing
funny.
here and be like, oh, this is a prototype Velociraptor experience.
Yeah.
Go ride it.
yeah, here's a roller
Boom.
coaster, Velociraptor coaster themed to a Velociraptor coaster.
Unapologetic.
Yep.
Would it also be Intamin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what
it's starting to feel like Intamin is doing all these package deals because then company that's Alps, if I pronounce it correctly,
Mm-hmm.
is getting the roller coaster, the hypercoaster of Albi Belgium,
And
the
the
motor
multi-launch
launch coaster at
coaster at
Parc
Parc
Astérix,
Oh yeah.
and then the family
Finally.
coaster at Futuroscope. So I feel like they're starting to build these package deals because they're pretty big in Asia now, but I feel
Yeah.
like they were kind of quiet on the Western front for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to
There was
see.
a huge gap. There were no Intamin coasters like between Skyrush
Skyrush.
and or Wave Rescue or whatever it's called.
Wavebreaker?
Wavebreaker at
Kneebreaker?
Kneebreaker, Spirit Breaker at SeaWorld San Antonio. I hate that ride, just in case you guys were wondering, because the restraints are really uncomfortable and it makes me feel like my kneecaps are going to explode. But that was a 5-year gap between Intamin coasters in the West because pretty much like Six Flags was like, we're not working with them anymore. Cedar Fair was like, we're not working with them anymore after the struggles with Shoot the Rapids and Intimidator. Even Busch Gardens, after the issues they were having with Falcon's Fury, and they were like, okay, we're not going to work with them for a while. They only took a 4-year break, I guess, between rides because Falcon's Fury was 2013, I think, and then they built Wavebreaker in 2017.
But then in that Florida market, it's not just Universal playing now. We have like the two major Vekoma coasters coming to Walt Disney World. Tron is obviously Tron, but then Guardians of the Galaxy looks like it may just be their biggest coaster yet.
Yeah.
Bigger than Tron.
It's going to be long.
It's going to be really
a
long.
ride.
It's going to have spinning vehicles.
Yeah, MK1212 vehicles, like the modern Vekoma looping coaster vehicles, but on the carriages, like they rotate, programmed rotating.
Yeah, so even though
looping.
I'm already really stoked for Tron, I'm actually really excited to see what Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be like because I feel like that may in the end be the better coaster. Tron is very visual. Like it's an experience riding
It's
it,
aesthetic,
but
and
it's quite short. And then after the first section of the ride, it's kind of slow. But I feel like Guardians may actually give us a run for our coaster money. Kind of like how every park ends building their like family friendly aesthetic coaster and their unapologetic. This is a throw coaster kind of
Yeah.
thing. And the same thing is coming to Busch Gardens Tampa with Guarmsey.
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 That sounds like an ingredient inside of Red Bull, like
Guarmsey O3.
Guarmsey B vitamins. And Tigris.
And it looks like I think
Tigris.
this week they're gonna start major demolition. So Nick will be there later this week to take a look. We may join, but we're not sure yet. So we'll have an update coming on that regard. And then we also have a Tron update that just launched last week. By the time you hear this, go check that out. And where we actually kind of received word of is that the SeaWorld Entertainment Company, the SeaWorld Parks Entertainment Company, is going to be adding a coaster at every park in 2020. Now, I'm not sure if that includes Sesame Place. I haven't heard much of Sesame Place unless you guys have. But we do know that they're looking at adding a new family launch coaster at SeaWorld Orlando, perhaps, and where Mango Joe's is located, next to the Shamu Stadium. Then, of course, we're getting Mako, the B&M dive machine at SeaWorld San Diego, which will be kind of like Baron.
I'm excited for
It'll
that.
have like the smaller trains. It won't have any fests, but we just actually saw a layout leaked. So we're going to talk about the layout for a quick second. So anyone listening from California or not from California, very interested in what Mako will be doing in San Diego. It'll be a 153 feet tall dive machine, no mid-course brake run. So it's gonna, the moment it drops, it's gonna run its way back to the station. What it'll start doing is that it has now a hanging drop like the most. You get a nice turn over the top of the lift, kind of take a view of the area.
Almost a perfect 180 turnaround.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. It's more of a turn than most of the dive machines. Then you have your usual typical straight down dive, 150 feet, followed by an Immelman. I mean, I feel like
Standard stuff.
I feel like literally every single dive machine does that.
Yeah.
Except for
Except for
Oblivion.
Oblivion, it's a dive and then the ride's over.
Dive and brake run. Dive straight into the brake
Just
run.
a drop into the station.
So after the Immelman, you're gonna go up and go into a hammerhead element, so kind of like a sideways stall high in the air, and you're gonna clear some track that's gonna run below you. And after that, you're gonna hit a bottom, kind of like a trough on the side of the ride. It doesn't seem to have a splashdown anywhere, but after the trough, you're gonna hit a barrel roll, which becomes a turn. So kind of like how the barrel roll in Valravn works.
Yeah.
Like you have a barrel roll, and in the end, the barrel roll is kind of like a turn, like a helix. That turn becomes a flat spin. I haven't even seen that term in a long time. It becomes a flat spin, like a corkscrew.
Yeah.
So it already has 3 major inversions.
And
and
when
then
B&M first came out, like all like their inverts and stuff, like they always called them flat spins.
Yeah.
Like Batman, you know.
exactly, yeah. So I'm
They
imagining.
didn't have corkscrews, they had flat spins.
Yeah, so rather than like the zero G rolls, which are pretty popular on the smaller models, it's gonna have a flat spin instead, which is it's really a drawn out big corkscrew through the layout. After which you have another really highly banked turn, kind of in the sky, which runs as a drop into the brake run. So I think it's gonna be a really really cool ride. That's some new things, and I'm also kind of excited it doesn't have a mid course brake run because
The best part about this ride is it has regular shoulder harnesses and not those
As far as we know now,
horrible
yeah.
vests. As far as we're being told.
so that's cool. And it's gonna be located right next to Journey to Atlantis, so it'll be the location of the park is perfect. And
Yeah, it'll be right when you come into the parking lot. Like it'll just be right there. The new hood ornament for the park.
yeah, so of course we're getting Guarmsea at Busch Gardens in 2020, Busch Gardens Tampa. This is Busch Gardens Williamsburg is either adding a hyper style coaster, perhaps Giga, or a multi-launch coaster like we're seeing in Park Asterix. It's kind of rumors at this point.
Yeah.
Nothing has been released, but they have a lot of hillside to play with. And Nick's gonna go on his first visit, I think, this year.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so like he'll see like it's just the rivers running through the
They've
park
got a
far
lot of room
below.
to work with,
And they-
still with inside, like within the train circumference, because
Yeah.
they still have that huge gap where Drakenfire.
And technically, the
was.
park is the largest park in the chain, even though Tampa feels
Yeah.
larger because it's better developed. And then San Antonio, I can't believe the park is honestly still around. SeaWorld San Antonio is going to get, it looks like a GCI Woody,
GCI
100
Woody.
feet tall.
Which is what Fiesta Texas almost got.
Yeah,
and
so-
now SeaWorld is like, well, we're going to prove that this was what you should have built.
So most of this is semi-confirmed rumors, but of course Mako is the real deal. So we're really, really excited for that because whoever thought that SeaWorld San Diego was going to be a coaster park?
Yeah.
Like, I had no clue. They're adding a bunch of coasters, and there's even talk of another coaster the year after, but that's for another episode.
Don't forget about Tidal Twister.
Oh, Tidal Twister.
That's supposedly going to happen.
Totally
still.
crazy sanity.
Tidal Twister. Harley Quinn's Gravy Train, or whatever it's called, at Discovery Kingdom. Like, that ride is AWOL. All I
I
hear
wouldn't be
is
surprised
now,
if they
like,
took the loss on ending.
They've taken like the trains apart. There's like harnesses and stuff that, like, according to my little friends on Instagram that I follow up in the Northern California area, they all keep me abreast on like what's happening with that ride because it seems to change on a daily basis. But like the trains are like taken apart and the rides get down and apparently like people don't even miss it. No one's asking about it. The general
Still haven't
public
ridden it.
doesn't seem to care.
I also don't care.
As the park's a lot quieter.
Now, something I
When
do
it's
care
not
to
open.
ride. Something I do care to ride is Fly at Phantasialand. But Sven was just there like a couple days ago. What does it look like? Is it going to open this year? You think, or we're going to have to wait?
Well, what I saw was that the side from the Wuzu Town area, so the more like the
Town.
children area and the indoor area where you have the two winjas, that side is completely
And the tittle
finished.
tattle tree.
Yeah.
That's right. No kidding.
Tattle tree.
That's such a fun thing. And then on the other side, in the Berlin street, you have the Ruckburg entrance. So it's getting really hard to see something from inside the park. The only spot left is at the entrance of Mauser Chocolat. And there you see that they are
Chocolate
also building steel structures. So it will be hard to catch up on what they are building. But from what we saw is that there seems to be already a lot of track up of Fly, but they released the hotel plans, and basically I think there is nothing yet built from the hotel. So I think they want to open an area, Ruckburg, with not only the flying coaster, but also with the hotel and maybe another ride for the kids or families, because
Well, was I hearing
they
there was
usually-
a theater going to be added to the area?
Yeah, the rumor has it that the Phantasma theater would be located in the Ruckburg area, so that way the existing theater would be free, and then the next step would be to have the Hollywood tour, the Temple of the Nighthawk, Temple of the Lift Hill, and
Sven, it was the best
and
one
the
yet.
Phantasma theater built into something new.
So sweet. Temple of the Lift Hill.
Yeah.
If anyone hasn't been on a ride, it is exceptionally long. It is a really long Vekoma indoor coaster. It is kind of slow, but there's 3 lift hills, and everyone was telling me prior to my first ride that like by the time you get to the 3rd lift hill, you wish it was over because it's
Yeah.
so boring. And I was like, no,
No
way in
way.
hell is any Vekoma gonna be too boring for me. 3rd lift hill comes, I'm like over it.
I'm over it. Yeah. It's like, there's better be a lift
Yeah,
hill
and
back to the station.
I
for
rode it-
Adventure Express.
I rode it last time, and there were 2 kids a few rows in front of me with their flash on all the time. So that made it even worse. I prefer it in the dark. That way you have some sense of speed.
It used to be like a space ride, like Space Mountain
Yeah.
themed, and then they turned. Then they
Space
like,
Center.
They very like they very like just kind of haphazardly rethemed it to Temple of the Nighthawk when the Woo's
Yeah.
land came. So it's like very clearly you're in this spaceship that has been painted green, and they put a bunch of fake plants in the ceiling. And
It is so not
it
fantastic.
is not what Phantasialand's
No.
business model is all about anymore, which is why that ride is like they've been
Yeah.
cleaning house on all of their old stuff. Geister Rickshaw is also
Is it done forever now, Sven?
There are strong rumors indeed that today was the last day that the park was open this season. So it might have been the last ride for many people. I wouldn't be surprised because there's this one scene where there's a huge boat. That's one of the best scenes in there because the boat is moving and then in the boat there are also animatronics. But it was standing still.
Oh.
So they didn't even bother to fix it. Is that a sign? I don't know. But there are also strong rumors that it will be closed. But coming back to Ruckburg and Fly, I'm doubting that it will open this year. I hope it will. But if they do so, then it will be at the end of the year, doing like a kind of what Europa Park did with Eurosat Can Coaster, like a late season opening. But seeing what still needs to be done, I think it will be 2020.
It's actually good information to have because I personally, Alex and I were kind of planning on going on a Europe trip with Fly in mind, but that's definitely like I'm not going to rush to Europe anytime soon when it comes to riding that.
Yeah.
And if anyone's making plans to go to Europe for theme parks soon, be aware that Fly is very likely not going to be open for your trip this year. So that's
But
good
if you've never
information
been
to
to
have.
Phantasialand,
It's still worth
absolutely
going,
go.
but it may be a little bit
Oh,
salty
yeah.
when you see
You'll
like Fly
still be like, your day will be filled to the brim
with lift hills.
with.
No kidding.
Your day will be busy. at Phantasialand. if
Pretty
you've
sure it's the
never
only
been.
park in the world that has 2 roller coasters that have 3 lift hills.
Disneyland. Hello.
Which Disneyland? Oh, well, Disneyland
Big Thunder
itself.
Mountain and Space Mountain.
Because Space Mountain
has
has
3 lift
like
hills.
4 lift hills. Okay, that's true. Okay, well, I
Sorry about
stand
your talking
corrected.
point.
Alrighty.
I think we've covered all of our topics for today.
Yeah, so this is kind of like an introduction episode. We're gonna have a season of about 12 episodes every month. Towards the end of the month, you can expect an episode to come out. In the future, we're gonna talk about a little bit more serious stuff, news. We're gonna have a special episode just kind of on Asia because we have juicy Universal Studios Beijing plans. We're gonna talk
Juicy.
about
Juicy.
whatever juicy is in Chinese, and then
Juicy in China. Cat.
I thought you meant dog. No kidding. And then we're gonna do some firsts. We're gonna talk a little bit about Disney and all their parks because we like Disney quite a bit. And so we really thank you guys for listening to our first episode. If you have any questions, shoot us an email at info@thecoastakings.com. Visit us on the web, thecoastakings.com. We have social media for region specific, Florida, Europe, California,
And miscellaneous.
and miscellaneous.
Cabin crew Coaster Kings.
So go ahead and give us a follow, and we would look forward to listening to you guys again. Or
And,
actually, you guys listening to us again, I should say.
And
Yeah.
if you have any ideas for topics, we are always, our ears are open. We would love to talk about things that you guys want to hear about. So,
And we are definitely going to do some major giveaways with some cool theme park merch, some special defunct ride stuff that we have access to because we want to make sure that you, but not only you, also other people listen to our podcast. So go ahead and spread the word. We'll have several giveaways involving social media shares coming up. So please share the podcast to anyone you love because you love us as well, I think. I hope. All right, thank you guys. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.